For years, we've all been told this really simple story about cholesterol. There's the bad kind, and then there's the good kind. But what if that story, especially the part about HDL being the straightforward good guy, is, well, a little too simple? Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on the good cholesterol story.
All right, let's just jump right in. That single HDL number you get back on your lab report, it might not be telling you the whole story. In fact, it could be masking some really important details about your cardiovascular health.
So to really get why that old story is falling apart, we've got to first talk about what it is, right? Let's start with that familiar, super simple advice about HDL cholesterol that we've all probably heard a million times.
I mean, for a really long time, the message from doctors and health experts was incredibly clear, incredibly consistent. It all boiled down to just a few core ideas.
And here's the gist of it. You want that HDL number to be high. The higher, the better. It was seen as this key sign of a healthy heart. And if you wanted to boost that number, the go-to advice was, hey, lose a little weight. Simple enough, right?
Well, here's where the plot thickens. A whole lot of new research is showing that this one number, your total HDL cholesterol, can actually be pretty misleading. It's kind of like trying to judge a really complex movie just by looking at its poster. You're missing most of the story.
So, let's pop the hood and see what's really going on in there. It turns out, HDL isn't just one single thing. It's actually a whole family of different particles, and this is the key part, they are not all created equal. Not by a long shot. The term you gotta know here is HDL subfractions. The easiest way to think about it is like this. The word car is a general category, right? But a tiny smart car and a massive 18-wheeler have totally different functions. It's the same idea with HDL. It's made up of different types of particles that do very different jobs in your body. Now this is where you can really see the difference. On one side, you've got these large HDL particles. Research is showing these are the real workhorses, the ones strongly linked to better heart health. But then on the other side, you have these smaller HDL particles, and they're actually found more often in patients who already have heart disease. See the problem?
And look, this isn't just some wild theory. We've got the receipts. A massive study has given us some incredibly powerful evidence for this more detailed view. Let's dig into the data.
We're talking about a study with over 28,000 men and women. That is a huge sample size, which gives the findings a ton of weight. And they use some really advanced tech, high-resolution mapping, to look at these different HDL particles in incredible detail.
So check this out. This is what happens when people lose weight. Yeah, sure, their total HDL often goes up, just like we were always told. But look closer. The good guys, those big beneficial HDL particles, they increase a lot. And at the same time, the more questionable, smaller particles actually go down. That is the real win. And it works the other way too. When people gain weight, the exact opposite happens. Those protective, large particles take a nosedive, while the less desirable small particles creep up. It's a perfect mirror image, and it just shows you how dynamic this whole system is.
Okay, if you remember one thing, remember this. This is the absolute headline from the study. The most important, most protective kind of HDL is almost twice as sensitive to your weight changes as that single total HDL number you see on a standard test. Let that sink in. It means your regular lab report could be dramatically underreporting the real biological benefit of all your hard work.
Okay, so we've got these different HDL types, and a huge study confirms they matter. But what's the so what? Why does any of this actually matter for your health in the real world? Let's talk about that. I mean, listen to this quote directly from the research paper. It says it all. Meaningful changes can occur out of proportion to changes in traditional lipid markers. In other words, your body's biology could be making huge strides for the better, but your standard lab test, it might only show a tiny little blip or nothing at all. There's a whole hidden story in your blood. Let's make this super concrete. Imagine two people, patient A and patient B. They both lose the same amount of weight. Their doctors are thrilled because their total HDL numbers go up by the exact same amount. But under the surface, something very different is happening. Patient A has had this massive surge in those protective, large HDL particles. Patient B, meanwhile, hasn't. So here's the kicker. Patient A's health has improved way more, but their standard test result looks identical to patient B's. That's the problem with the simple story. So if the standard test is incomplete, then what's the answer? Well,
The future is all about precision. It's about getting a much clearer, more detailed picture of what's really going on with our health.
And the answer is something called direct measurement. New technologies like these advanced lipospec platforms, they don't just guess what's going on based on the total cholesterol number. They can actually go in and count and analyze the different types of HDL particles one by one, giving us that complete picture we've been talking about.
The power of this is, well, it's a total game changer. We're moving from a blurry, out-of-focus snapshot to a high-resolution image of our health. We get a true biological interpretation of what's happening inside our bodies, and we can finally see those powerful, positive changes that a standard HDL test completely misses.
So it all kind of boils down to this, doesn't it? As our tools get more and more sophisticated, the simple numbers we've relied on for decades might not be cutting it anymore. So isn't it time we started asking for the full story?